We are talking about solving nonlinear systems and solving quadratic inequalities. And in this example, we want to solve systems of nonlinear equations. We can solve using substitution or elimination. And this example says don't use a calculator. So it's pretty close to set up to use substitution right now. We just have to get one of these variables in the denominator or in the bottom equation by itself. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to solve to get y by itself and then use that to substitute into the top equation. So I'm just going to rewrite this equation over here. We have x plus y is equal to 4. And then I'm just going to solve this to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract x and subtract x from both sides of the equation. And we get y equals 4 minus x. So now we know that what y is equal to, and we can substitute that into the equation right there. So I'm going to start rewriting that equation. And when we get to the y, I'm just going to take the y out. So we have x squared plus x minus, and now I'm going to I'm taking the y out and replacing it with what I know, which is 4 minus x. And that is equal to -1. So now I have to just go through and simplify the equation that we have. So I'm going to distribute the negative into the parentheses to start with. So I'm going to get x squared plus x minus 4 plus x equals -1. And then we have two x's. So we have this x and this x, which we can get together. So then we get x squared plus 2x minus 4 equals -1. And we know that this is a quadratic function, and whenever we're solving a quadratic function, we want one side to be equal to 0. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and you're going to end up with x squared plus 2x minus 3 equals 0. And at this point, you have a couple different ways that we could solve this. We could solve using the square root. It's not going to be very nice when we have this linear term in the middle. We could use the quadratic formula if we didn't have any other option, but this one's factorable. So what we can do is we can write out the factors for this. So we have x and x. So x times x is x squared. And then we have to multiply to -3. And in this case, 3 and 1. And then we have to add to a +2. So we have to make sure that the bigger number has that sign or is positive. 3 is bigger than 1, so 3 has to be positive and 1 has to be negative. Now we can use the zero product property. And we can find out what the zeros are for this particular question. So we're going to say x3 equals 0. So we subtract 3, and we get x equals -3. And then over here we can say x minus 1 equals 0. So then we add 1 and add 1, and then we get x equals 1. So those are the x values, but we still have to figure out what our y values are that go with that. And so over here, we have our linear function and that's going to be a little bit easier to manipulate than our quadratic function. So I'm going to substitute these x values back into this equation and see what their y value should be. Actually, I'm going to substitute it into this equation because then I can just plug it right in. So we got y equals 4 minus, and then that's going to be, the first one I'm going to do is -3. So minus a negative is a positive, so y equals 4 plus 3, so y equals 7. So that gives us an ordered pair of -3, 7 for one of our x's. And then the next example, we're going to use the same equation where we have y equals 4 minus, and then in this case we're going to substitute in 1. So 4 minus 1, that is y is equal to 3, and so we get the ordered pair of 1, 3. So those are the two solutions. So we substituted x into that equation, and we substituted this x into that equation. And when we started, we took this expression right here and we put it in to the quadratic equation.